we're back in the kitchen with Kitus Cooks. Today, it's a special treat. I forgot to wear my Crisco t-shirt, but we're gonna make a cake using Crisco instead of butter. It's a white cake, only Crisco, and even the icing is gonna be made with Crisco instead of butter. That's gonna be our fat source. So I'm excited about it because Crisco and me, we go way back. Look at there. Okay, so we're gonna start first, as we always make when we make our cakes and our cookies. We're gonna start with the fat, which is the Crisco, and then we're gonna add the sugar to it and let it cream a bit, and then we'll start working on our dry ingredients. So let's do this. Let's get our Crisco in our mixer, which is going to be, I'm looking at the recipe right now. Where is it? There it is. Half cup. You would think that I had looked at this recipe before, and I just hadn't looked at the amounts. Okay, so we'll start with a half cup, and let's see, this is a quarter cup, which isn't enough, and that's a full cup, which is enough. So I'm gonna use that full cup measure, and I'm only gonna fill it up halfway. Correct, because a half cup is half of a full cup, believe it or not. Okay, so I just pack it in there, and I'm pretty darn close there, I'm thinking. Yes, that's nice. So we got a half cup of our Crisco. It's going directly into our mixer. And next thing we'll do, we'll add our sugar. So remember, that's the process we always do. We do fat, which could be butter, it could be margarine, or Crisco, whichever you decide to use. We obviously decided to use Crisco today. And so our sugar, we're gonna add, I should wear my glasses, but I need 3/4 of a cup of sugar. So I come over here, I grab my sugar here, and I'm gonna do, this is a quarter cup. So how many quarter cups in 3/4 cups? And there's a hint in that. There's a hint in that. There you go, good job, Claire. Three quarter cups into a 3/4 cup measure. Perfect, good job. So we get that going. What we want to do, we want to let it mix up. We want it to kind of cream and get all nice and fluffy, and then we'll be able to add the dry ingredients to it. So we're going to leave that on, and I'm going to start working on the dry ingredients. First thing in this recipe, it calls for cake flour. Now what's cake flour? None of us really know. Even when we buy a bag of it, it's cake flour. So basically what cake flour is, it's flour. Yep, flour for cake. So what it is, there's just to the flour, there's some, this one here, cornstarch added to it. God, I forgot that word, scared myself. So we're gonna add a little bit of cornstarch to it. While I look around for my cup measures, which I forgot to get, I thought I just needed one and I needed more, but that's okay, I'll dry this one out. Perfect. Thought I was all set up. Fooled myself. So what we're gonna do, first we're gonna make the cake flour. So we'll add, in our recipe I need 1.5 cups of cake flour. So what I'll do here, I'm gonna actually make a little extra cake flour. So we'll do 2 cups of flour. So remember, we get our nice full measure there, and then we run off the top. I'll put that into our sieve or our screen. I like calling it a screen. Just seems, sieve is such a weird word to me. It just doesn't seem to work for me. It feels unnatural when I say it. All right, so there's our 2nd cup, but we're not gonna use all that in the recipe, remember that. 2 cups of flour, and then we're gonna go to our cornstarch. So for 1 cup of flour, we add 2 tablespoons of cornstarch. So we obviously made 2 cups of flour, so we end up with, oh, you guys all said it silently, yeah, 4 cups or 4 tablespoons, okay? So good answer there, everybody. I'm sure you all just put it in your chat. You didn't want to yell it out. All right, there it makes 3. See how I do that? And if I had wanted to, what measuring tool could I have used to get me 4 tablespoons instead of doing the 4 tablespoons 4 times? Remember that 1 tablespoon, or that 4 tablespoons equals a quarter cup. So how many tablespoons? I couldn't make this test any easier. So I could have used a quarter cup measure to scoop out that the cornstarch, okay? Because remember, 1/4 cup equals 4 tablespoons. All right, so remember, we've been working on measurements, remembering what goes into what. I shake that through, I get out any impurities, and then I'm just gonna mix it up a little more. I really wanna make sure this is all mixed up really nice like this. And I think it's very nice now. Okay, so next thing we do, I'm gonna scrape down the edges of my Crisco and sugar. Look at that. Looks good. It's starting to really cream up nicely. I won't turn it up too high yet. In a little bit, I'll turn it up to really kind of whip some air into it and get it nice and fluffy, but it'd be a little too loud for us right now. So I've got the cake flour, but remember, I made more than we needed to. So in this recipe, we need 1.5 cups of cake flour. So I'm going to do, here's 1 cup here. Correct. There's 1 cup of flour. And then I'm going to do 2/4 cups to make it 1/2 cup, okay? Just to mix things up a bit. And you'll see that is a 1/4 cup, so we're almost to, there we go, nice. Okay, so now we have 1.5 cups of cake flour. Well, I've got so much stuff here. I cleaned my station last week and it's worse than it was. Then I'm going to have to add 1 teaspoon of baking powder. So here we go. I got my baking powder and I've got a 1 teaspoon measure. Just out of curiosity, does anybody remember how many teaspoons in a tablespoon?
3.
There you go. Good job, Robert. Exactly. 3 teaspoons and 1 tablespoon. How many tablespoons in a 1/4 cup? I won't give any hints, but there you go. Okay, and then baking soda. I need 1/4 teaspoon. So let's see if I can find, if I have one here. Look at that, 1/4 teaspoon. How many 1/4 teaspoons in 1 teaspoon? Just for instance. I'm not giving any hints, but how many? 4. 4/4 teaspoons. Oops, I went the wrong way. 4/4 teaspoons in 1 teaspoon. So, okay, how many quarters in a dollar? There you go. There you go. There you go. There's 2 different ways to say it. Good job. Okay, and then I'm going to put about 1/2 teaspoon of salt in this. So we got our dry ingredients ready. So I'm going to set that there. I'm going to finish putting stuff into our cake, our Crisco mixture. So I'm going to put about 1 teaspoon of vanilla in there. Nice. And then I'm going to add about 1/2 cup of ice water. Believe it or not, I brought my ice water with me. So I'm going to do, I'm looking at it there. Oh, I nailed it. Good job, chef. Got 1/2 cup on my first try. Okay, so I'm getting all my wet ingredients together right here. Then we can add those to the mixture. And then what we'll do is finish with the dry ingredients, okay? So, let's see, next thing I need is eggs, which I have here. You probably all think that I look discombobulated, but I'm not. Okay, there we go. And I'm gonna get, well, in this one, all we're gonna add is the egg whites. So we need to separate the whites and the yolks. And be careful, if you get the yolk in it, the color of the white cake will change a bit. It will be a little yellow, and we don't want that. We want it purely white. Okay, there we go. And save those egg yolks. You can go ahead and make something with those later. An omelet, there you go, exactly. You can make an egg yolk omelet. Delicious. We call it a cholesterol buster. Okay, there we have. Our whites are ready to go. Our ice water's ready to go. Our flour's ready to go. So what I'm gonna do real quickly, one more time, scrape down the sides. Just like that, and I can see, oh, it's really really kind of fluffy now, and that's exactly what we wanted. And I say we wanted to cream this mixture. That's exactly what we did. So now what we do, and we're going to add the flour to this, and we're going to add a little bit of flour, a little bit of water, a little bit of flour, a little bit of water. In that way, it all combines really nicely. If I'd added all the water, like I said before, it wouldn't really hold together with the fat. So this is going to basically emulsify the cake. And so we'll start with a little bit of the flour right in there. We'll do about 1/3 at a time, okay? So about 1/3 of a cup of water. We let it mix up. I'm going to do a little bit more of the flour. And there we go, a little more water. And the last bit of flour. And the last bit of water. And now there's a couple things you can do. If you really want to help it, to really give it a little more fluffiness, you can whip the egg yolks. You can whip them into like a really frothy, peaked egg yolk. Or what I often do, I just add them in here. And what it's really going to do in this case is just kind of use it as a binding for the for your cake. Okay. So slowly, I'm just going to add those whites in there, and that's going to hold it all together. And while that's mixing, and I don't want to overmix it. Remember, we don't want to develop too much gluten. But what we're going to do, I'll once again brush down the sides. Nice, chef. So we can make, if we wanted to, we can make cupcakes with this, or we can. What we're going to do is do an actual cake with it. And so that's all ready. So really quickly, I'll get my cake pan ready. And what do we use for a cake pan? La la la, right? A cake pan. That's the most obvious trick we're going to use today. Okay, so I've got we'll put that trash can there. Darn janitor. Okay, so remember how we do this? I'm going to take a Sharpie all the way around like that. And then I'm going to go ahead and look what I remembered. Incredible, I didn't have to run around the... Remember when you do this now, you want to cut on the inside of the black mark you made, or if you used a blue or an orange, you'd cut on the inside of it, because that black mark is from the outside of the pan, so we want to make sure this fits on the inside of the pan. Does that make sense? It does to me. And so if I was only talking to a crowd of one, I'd be good, but I'm not. Thank you. I like it when you guys shout out encouragement for me. All right, so now I got my pan. I'm just going to do one pan on this. If I doubled the recipe, how many pans would I use? Obviously 2. That's a no-brainer right there. Okay, so this, let it go right in the bottom. The reason I put the pan spray in there is to make sure it sticks to the bottom. If you didn't do that, sometimes what happens when you pour the batter in there, the paper will kind of splash up and it will get caught in the middle of your cake, and you'll have to redo. Second thing I'm going to do, you don't have to do this, but this is something that really helps the cake release from the pan. And do you guys think this is going to be enough to fit all the way around? I think it is. Sometimes it isn't. That always amazes me. It looks like it's going to be the perfect size, but once you put it in, oh, look at that. I was right. It's missing a little bit right there, like a finger amount, but I think we'll be okay. We won't need to add more paper, okay? But it's really interesting. Like, I bought my wife a bunch of zip ties the other day because she was going to put some garland up for the Christmas tree, and instead of thinking, oh, I'll get the 11-inch, no, I got the 8-inch, which was obviously too short, because that's what happens when you're married. And so you always try and get a little bigger piece, but in this case you can't. I don't know how I worked my zip tie story into this whole thing, but it seemed to fit when I started telling it. Okay, so here we go. All this comes out. Just wipe that down. And then if you have your little brother or sister or a dad, then you say, hey, you want to lick the beater? And there's always somebody that wants to. Anybody want to lick the beater? Oh, they're all on their phones. I know, exactly. All right, so now you look at that. We have a really nice cake batter. And that's delicious. Oh, I love that taste. What is the flavor of white cake?
Doing a taste test.
Mm-hmm. So that was a question that was posed to me earlier today. And really, I don't know what the flavor of white cake is. Is it white? Was that a flavor? And then there is some vanilla in there. But the person who posed the question said to me, they don't like it for the flavor, they like it for the moistness of the cake. So he walked me right into my own trap, saying words that I don't like to say. All right, so now we've got it in there. You can do that, bang it down. You can push it around like this, and we're gonna put it in an oven. Our oven here, it's gonna be about 325. Your oven at home, oh, I like that part. Your oven at home, let's put it in at 350 if it's not a convection. If it's a convection oven at home, do it about 325. Probably gonna take 20 minutes to cook. Remember how we figure out at the end, there's a couple ways that I figure. I can pretty much look at it and tell by how it's shaped, by the color of it, and when you shake it, if it jiggles a little bit. And then if you do all those tests and you can touch it, I usually touch it with my finger, and if there's a certain amount of firmness to it, then it's done. But an easier way for you is to grab a toothpick, stick it in there, pull it out. If there's any moisture on it or any of the batter stuck on it, then it's not ready. If it comes out and there's some dry crumbs on it, it's done. Another way you can tell, and actually a way you can tell if you've cooked it too much, is the cake itself is starting to pull away from the sides of the pan, okay? So you need to pull it out really quick, because at that point, it's starting to shrink, and it's getting overcooked, and the cake's gonna be a little bit dry. So I'll actually ask Melanie to you wanna put that in the oven for me? Melanie will throw it in the oven, and we'll get that going. So while she's doing that, we're gonna finish it tomorrow, but to be ready for tomorrow, what I'm gonna do is we're gonna make the icing today. So we have it ready to go. And since it has Crisco instead of butter, there's no the kind of proteins like the butter proteins, we'll be able to leave it out overnight on the kitchen stand, okay? And it will stay at a perfect temperature for icing. If we had a buttercream or something, we wanna put that in the refrigerator, and then we have to pull it out and let it soften up to use it, okay? So that's really important to know. So we're gonna put a cup of Crisco into this. So let me grab this. Perfect.
Can you let Ben in, please?
Oh yeah, Ben, welcome. Even though you are way late, but welcome, Ben. Welcome to class. We were just all talking about you, Ben. Not really, just kidding. Okay, so in here goes 1 cup of Crisco. Okay, that looks good. Pretty evened off and everything. Good job, Chef. Thanks, Chef. Gotta pat myself on the back because none of you ever do. Just kidding. I'm gonna leave this here as a little advertisement, and once again, thank Mason and his parents for my incredible Crisco shirt, which I meant to bring today and I didn't. So I'll do it tomorrow, wear it tomorrow. Okay, and then I'm gonna get I'll just use we can use the same beater. No one's gonna tell, okay? That gives us fewer dishes. And the next thing we'll do, I'm gonna get my confectioner sugar, or what we call powdered sugar, ready. So once again, we're gonna use our sieve, and I'll get that there. I'm gonna do, where did I put it? Oh no. Okay, so I'm gonna get 2 cups of the sugar, and it's okay if we do extra because we don't have to add it all, okay? So I'm gonna put it in here, and remember the reason we put it in this sieve is to get rid of all those impurities. So I'm gonna show you here in a second. Once we break it down, look at all those clumps of powdered sugar there. That's a lot. So we can push those through, but if you put those in your mixture, you would have like chunks of, you might end up with little rocks of powdered sugar in your icing, okay? So there we go. That powdered sugar makes a mess too. It's not me, it's the powdered sugar. Okay, so I have the powdered sugar. I'm gonna add a little bit of vanilla to this mixture here to get going. And if you wanted, you could actually add another flavor. You could add a little bit of almond flavoring to it. I think that would be a nice topping. I make a coconut cake that I add almond to. And so this is almost the same thing. Okay, so now we've got that. What's that? What's that? Oh yeah. Did you say mayonnaise? You think that mayonnaise would go good in this? What? I know, I'm teasing you. Claire, I'm teasing. Okay, and then you can add a little milk to thin it out, or you can add a little, I'm putting a little ice water in there, because guess who didn't bring milk out today? My setup crew. And we're just gonna let it whip, and what we do now is let it go and go until it really starts to fluff up. I'll just add the rest of this. Be really careful when you're adding it. If you add it too fast when the beater's going full speed, you know what's gonna happen? There's gonna be more powdered sugar. It's like I couldn't get more powdered sugar on the table. Yes, I could. Just watch me now. Exactly. Okay, so I'm just adding some in there, and you'd probably want to use milk, but adding the water, the reason I do that, it's intentional, is because I told you I'm going to leave it out overnight, and so that's what the water does, makes it so we can leave it out. And then guess what happened? Guess who added too much water? Exactly, me. So I'm going to add a little more powdered sugar. I got so excited watching it. I know. I just wanted to shake a little more. Shake it like a Polaroid picture. Anybody? Hey ya. That's another hint. Outcast. Hey ya. Shake it like a Polaroid picture. Picture. Speaking with some kind of weird accent. Okay. So that's going to be done. I can tell right now. Just going to let it whip up a bit. I'm going to get a container to put it in overnight.
You're rocking the meeting.
I know, right? So these mixers really get going. One thing you got to be very careful with, if you ever walk away from a mixer, because I learned this from experience, that's going full speed and you go over to get something, that thing can walk to the side of the table and fall off. So you've got to be very careful because replacing a mixer gets expensive. Replacing 2 mixers is twice as expensive. There's a little more math for you. Don't tell me I don't teach you math. Okay, now I'm going to take a look at this. I'm going to bring a little bit out. I'm going to taste it. That's so good. Now when you buy, like at the grocery store, you've got all these big fancy cakes. They make almost all of their icings are made with a Crisco product. It's the one I use, it's called Sweet X, and it's made specifically for making icings. And it's actually as bad for you as butter, so they're equally bad. So if you think they're bad, they're not really, they're there for you to eat. It was in the 90s they came out with the trans fat scare, but if you just moderate what you eat, you'll be okay. Correct? Let me hear you guys. Correct? My class is fired up in here today. Okay, so that's going to do it for today. Tomorrow we're going to ice our cake. We're going to make it really cool. I'm going to actually have Melanie ice the cake for us tomorrow. She doesn't know it yet. I'm going to tell her here in a minute. So remember, get in the kitchen, sharpen your knives, keep those emails coming. I haven't got any recently, so send out my kitus.richard@wenatcheeschools.org and keep on cooking because it's fun to cook, isn't it? And Eric, that's a wrap. We're out of here.